Hey guys, Rob here from Room 301. Today I'm joined by Em Glover, who is the founder of Victress Digital, a specialist SaaS marketing agency. Lots of topics covered today, not least why long forms are the bane of Em's life, and navigating AI in what seems to be an AI world now. Let's get into it.
Okay, welcome back. I am pleased to be joined by Em Glover this week. Em, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you for joining us. So quickly, happy to introduce yourself, a bit about your company and your background.
Of course, yeah. I'm Em. I run Victress Digital. We are a small social media specialist agency based in Nottingham. We usually work with SaaS or B2B brands, and we've been around for 6 years this month. So
Excellent, 6 years. Wowza.
yes.
I seem to remember the LinkedIn post where you announced creating the business for some reason. That seems like only yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's 6 years in November, so it's crazy time. It's gone
Awesome.
very fast. And obviously, most of that was like through COVID times. So.
COVID, yeah, the C word. We don't like to. So what's the background? Have you got agency background? Are you more in-house?
Yeah, majority agency background. I started in house in education, so I worked in schools, both state schools and private schools, and then I worked agency side. I used to live and work in South Africa, so I worked for a couple
Oh
of
wow.
agencies over there. Moved back to Nottingham in 2017. Worked for two more like local agencies, and then started my own. So majority agency background, I would say.
Excellent. So it feels like you've kind of been there and done it all really at this point, and now you're in the hot seat. Well, look,
Yeah.
for anybody that hasn't listened, hopefully everybody has. We kind of asked three core questions on this podcast. So one of them is what is in your toolbox. One of them is what is a funny failure, and then finally, what grinds our gears about marketing? What are we going to put in room 301? So we're going to kick off with what's in your toolbox. Now,
Yeah.
this is not necessarily, although it can be, a tool, a piece of software that you use every day to help manage your workload, your team. We're all busy running businesses or marketing teams. It
Yeah.
could be a way of thinking. It could even be a methodology, a book, whatever it is. Over to you. What's in your toolbox? What helps you manage your schedule and your busy working life?
I think because obviously most of what we do is online, I'm still a
Mm.
massive fan of like writing actual lists. So
Good
the
old pen
wall
and
behind,
paper.
yeah, but also the wall behind me I've turned into a giant whiteboard. So I do scribble a lot of stuff. So I bought whiteboard, like sticky back wallpaper essentially. So the
Yeah.
whole wall in my office is whiteboard. I do write everything down, and I'm a sucker for a list. So
Golly.
yeah, it's written down, and I do like to tick things off. So as much as I do use like tools, we are a big fan of Trello at Victress,
Yeah.
so we use Trello a lot. And I'm actually a huge fan of a good spreadsheet, if I'm honest. Um, big fan. So yeah, anything spreadsheet related, anything list related, I'm your gal. But I'm not a massive fan of using too many tools.
No.
Sometimes we work with clients who have lots of different tools and systems in place. Like they might have a Trello and a Asana and a spreadsheets and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
It can become really hard to like mitigate properly. So we try to streamline our processes as much as we can. So Trello works really well for us internally. And then personally, I like to be able to tick things off and highlight things. So
Yeah. Do
I've
you
got,
find it goes in more if you write it down with a pen?
yeah, 100%. And I will also
Yeah.
write things down that I've already done just so I can tick them off. Guilty.
Retrospectively do your I've heard that
Yeah.
before, like do a done list and a to-do list. It makes you feel a whole lot better at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. My friend bought me like a weekly planner that I've just showed you, and that's actually got like things to do per day and then things to do per week. And it's just pretty to look at, so I use it more. But
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
really interested in the whole make your room a whiteboard approach. Although I feel like I've walked into my room and it would literally just be writing everywhere and it'd be quite scary and overwhelming to look at.
yeah, it's a bit like Number 13, if you've ever seen that film where he like
I
puts
have seen
loads of
that film, yeah.
yeah. I can imagine it could get a bit wild, but it's really useful from I brainstorm a lot better writing things down than I
Yeah.
do writing a document or like using anything like Google Docs related. I'm much better
Mm.
to brainstorm and get everything out, pen to paper. I'm a bit of a traditionalist in that sense, so it really does help me to sort of get everything out as well as to-do lists. It's more just brain dumping onto paper and then making some
Yeah,
sentences out of it in the end.
that's it. And what do you use as a business to manage products, client accounts, things like that? Is it Trello or do you use something more centralized?
Yeah, so we do use Trello, and Asana is the way that we usually try to work with clients. But we try and adopt their way versus trying to give them our
Yeah.
way. We work with a lot of agencies and clients that have systems in place already. So we've got a couple of clients on like Slack that we talk to via that.
Yeah.
Um, I've got one great client that we have on WhatsApp, but that's all we try and keep
Just
on
one.
WhatsApp. Yeah, just
Yeah, just one.
yeah. Right. Other than that, I think tools wise, I would say that we've actually reduced down the volume
Mm.
between them, and we try and do it with clients and making sure that everything's really tidied up. I am a fan of HubSpot, and we do use it with clients for their like the way that they've got their CRM set up. But yeah, tools wise, pretty traditionalist.
Mm. We've genuinely 3 weeks ago we moved on to HubSpot. So I'm
Oh,
getting
nice.
all into sequences and tasking up and getting a real
Yeah.
proper outbound sales framework going on now.
Oh,
I
nice.
seem to remember a few years back you talking about account-based marketing
Yeah.
at one of our old drink events, probably 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
ago now, and it
Yeah.
did kind of stick with me. And 4 years later, finally getting around to it. So
Yeah, I definitely do like HubSpot. Particularly if everything's set up well and everyone
yeah,
uses it efficiently. A couple of our clients use it, like you say, throughout the full team. So all the sales and leads go in there, but then also social media scheduling goes in there as well. So it is nice to have a central place, and that's what I mean about trying to streamline the tools to be using them most effectively versus having yourself spread too thin across. Because I think like there's so many different tools now, so many different like AI platforms you can use, and it can
mm,
get mega overwhelming that you think you've got to have like dip your toe in everything. And I know that my brain already has too many tabs open. I don't need probably too
yeah,
many literal tabs
yeah. No,
and
I
open.
feel that. I really feel that. I wasn't going to talk about AI, but you've mentioned it now, so I
Oh
can't
no.
not talk about it.
Yeah.
Any AI tools that you prefer? Any use cases you talk about?
Um, Not massively. I think I'm a bit of a believer. Well, obviously, there's a lot of people saying, "Is it going to come for our jobs and what's going to happen to our
Yeah,
industry?" And I think from my perspective, it was more just getting used to using it and being comfortable using
yeah,
it versus
yeah,
being resistant to it. Because I think it'll only come for the jobs of the people that aren't open to trying it, I believe. Um, so from our side, like we've experimented with client social stuff using Journey. So like it's
right,
a image tool,
yeah,
um, which has been quite effective for what they needed at the time. But it also comes with its limitations, and like we know, and if you've ever seen the way that AI does hands, then you'll know we've still got a way to go in terms of body parts and pictures and that sort of stuff. But I definitely have used it previously, even just using chat to like prompt it to get some ideas for like paid social campaigns.
mm,
But I do recognise its limitations, and I'm not a massive adopter of it. In the obviously, like I say, I'm quite traditional in the way that I work, but I can see it does have its plus side. So I'm open to learning. I'm open to trying things out. But I definitely learn better by trying things out myself. So
yeah.
if I get
No, I agree. That's our approach. Really, is very, very
yeah,
open to it. Understand that actually it's going to get more and more sophisticated over the next 12 to 24 months, and actually we need to
yeah,
be on that journey rather than fight against that journey. So that's our
yeah,
stance. And yeah, same as you, ChatGPT is probably my chosen tool, and I use it a lot of. I'm not fantastic at copy. I'm not fantastic at writing emails, and I'm quite dyslexic, so I use it to sort of sense check that or rewrite stuff or add a different angle. It works really well. Um,
Yeah,
okay,
I
cool.
I recently I was at my grandma's house and she'd had some notes from the hospital which were all in like abbreviations, and she was waiting
Okay.
for a call from the doctor, and it was getting pushed out and pushed out by weeks. So I uploaded the notes from the hospital letter and said to chat, you tell me what these abbreviations stand for and roughly what they mean. And it broke it down like line by line. I said to her, I don't know if this is right, but like this is what it's saying. And then she had a call and they said that it was exactly what it said.
Really?
And luckily, it wasn't saying anything too bad because I wouldn't have been like, and it says that it's going to be fatal, and you've got 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It
not
was
looking
just,
good.
yeah, it was really like fascinating, but it was really fun to actually show her that as well and say like, this is a tool
Yeah, yeah.
that exists and this is what happens. So yeah, it was good.
My best use case, and this might be something that interests you, is so I transcribe most of my calls using something called Otter. So it just
I like
joins my
Otter.
Zoom. Yeah, it
Yeah,
just joins my Zoom calls. But I have something now where it takes the transcription, um, runs it through ChatGPT, um, especially if I'm doing like a sales call, it'll take the transcription and create it into a brief that I can just fire into the Slack channel for the team to view. That's a process
yeah,
that used to take me maybe an hour, maybe an hour
yeah,
and a half sometimes, jump on a sales call, brief the team in on this new opportunity, but that brief would
yeah,
take me an hour to make it detailed to the point where the team would, buy into it and understand it and not have any further questions. But I've got the
yeah,
prompt just right now where it takes transcription, generates the brief, stick it in the Slack channel. It's done in 5 minutes, and it's just perfect, and that's been a game changer for me.
yeah, that's good.
So it does have its place. Get yourself on Otter. That's your toolbox. The second part is a failure. Bonus points if it's funny. So talk to me, Em, about some of the times you've bodged up.
I feel like I've probably messed up loads in my career, but I honestly think that there's part of my brain is like goes into self-defense mode and protects it and just says, don't like remember all those embarrassing things you did once. Um, I think I would say a kind of, well, it is probably a big failure, is many, many years ago, I went for a job that I probably wasn't really qualified to do. Um, and and I probably had not enough experience to maybe have done that. But I was so desperate to work for that company that I just said that I could do all the things that I could do. And I just remember on the first day, they were very much like, right, well, hit the ground running. You promised us a lot in the interview, and I was
Yeah,
like, right, okay,
off you go.
let's do this, let's do this. And then yeah, just drastically panicking in my head, thinking, how am I going to explain that I actually am not as experienced as I proclaimed I was. So I think that really has taught me, and particularly now owning my own business where I can't really hide behind anything anymore.
Yeah,
But I think it's been really, really important for me, and something that I say a lot to the team is like we have to be authentic. Like I know what we're good at. There's tons of agencies out there now, and I say a
mm,
lot about maybe what clients shouldn't do more than what they should. And really, I'm the first to put a hand up and say if I'm not very good at something or we're not experienced to do something. And I think that mild panic I had at my desk like some 10 years ago was probably the catalyst for that.
Well, the reason I wanted this in the podcast is because every failure comes with some sort of learning curve, doesn't it? So, do you
Yeah,
find
yeah.
yourself being more selective over the people you work with, more recently, or
Yeah, I'd say so. I think I would say this year has been very much a year for authenticity for me in general. Um, just both personally and professionally. And I found that we have better team and work satisfaction if we're working on projects that we know
mm,
we can deliver a really great high level of service. And I think when you're first starting out, or I obviously started out as a freelancer, I was saying yes to everything because I just wanted to grow. I wanted to, and not necessarily yes to things that I wasn't experienced to do, but maybe things that came with massive red flags that I was ignoring and thinking it will be fine because I need the money, I need the revenue, I'm worried about being self-employed, I'll just say yes. Or the client wasn't particularly very nice to me maybe, and oh, it's fine because you just need like to bring them cash in. But I think nowadays I'm more selective. because I know what we can offer and I know the level of service we offer, but also because I think people respect authenticity and integrity more. I think one of our Google reviews says that I am the opposite of a yes man. And I think a lot of people might read that and say, like, does that come with kind of I don't know, confrontational, or is she like really firm? But I'd rather sit and have a really honest, tough conversation with a client and say, look, here's where you're going wrong and here's where you're struggling with, and we can help fix this together, but this is the situation that you're in. Because I do have meetings with clients a lot, or prospects a lot, where they're with a current agency and they'll say, well, when we first started working with them, they promised we would get to XYZ position and we haven't, or they promised that we'd get this result and we're not there yet. And I'm the sort of first person to say, like, we can't promise results. We don't know what the market's going to be like.
100%.
So, yeah, I would say nowadays I'm definitely more, I'm okay with saying no than I used to be.
I think that's really good because for me, the agencies that can get paid for their perspective, their opinion, their experience, their strategic advice are going to do far better than the ones that nod their head and just do stuff.
Yeah.
Doing the stuff. I mean this in the greatest respect because I know it's difficult, I know it's challenging, but doing the stuff is the easy bit. It's actually what thinking of what stuff to do and why and the reasons for that in connection to the commercial objectives. That's the hard bit. That's the bit where you add the value. And I think by saying no, disagreeing, it's not confrontational, it's consultative. It's offering
Yeah.
your perspective based on what you know and what you're clearly very good at. So
Yeah, I'd rather have a tough conversation with anyone any day
mm,
than shy away from that. And then 6 months down the line, we've got to a position where I maybe knew in my heart of hearts in the beginning it wasn't going to work, but I was too afraid to say anything. Whereas now I'd rather sort of lay that out and work with clients very closely to fix the issues. I'm not about to deliver some like scary news to you and then say, but this is your problem. Like, to me, it is our problem that we're going to
it's our
work on and
problem.
fix together. But I do think that the difficult conversations I'm way more comfortable nowadays to have than I maybe would have been
Yeah,
6 years ago.
and that comes with experience as well, especially in a more senior position. Having a difficult conversation is not easy, but once you've done one or two, you actually feel quite good coming off the back of it because actually you may have butted
Yeah,
heads a little bit, but you feel like you've got the leverage in that situation. You feel like your perspective's been valued and respected. So
yeah.
no, I think that's the natural course of anybody who's getting better in their career and moving up. So last, but certainly not least, and you've probably got more than one example of this, I'm going to guess, given the number of years you've been at this game. So Room 301, for anybody who doesn't know, 301 in SEO terms is 301 redirecting something permanently. So what we want to do is create a Room 301 where we get rid of anything from marketing that we don't want to see again, a pet peeve of ours, um, never to be seen again, hypothetically. So what grinds your gears? What don't you like?
Um, for me, it's either overly complicated, like forms or lead gen websites,
Ugh,
or is a huge one for me. And it usually comes with a lot of like bias from a sales team. So if we suggested to reduce down like form fields in a form, then the lead is therefore not qualified because they've not given all the information that a sales team needs to like process it. Well, obviously we work a lot with SaaS and B2B
hmm,
lead gen. So for me, forms are everything. Just the way that people set out. I've seen forms recently where instead of country, they've got like country code abbreviation, and I spent a
why?
good like I probably spent 5 minutes looking for like UK and going through all different ones, and then realised that I was looking for GBR, as
Didn't
in
even
Great
know
Britain.
that.
Like I would never. What?
No, I would have
Oh,
put
okay.
UK, right?
And I'm thinking, well, how many people have we lost to like
Mm,
trying to basically put them through some sort of crystal maze type experience where they've got to jump through hoops, and realistically at that point you've lost them. Like most people who want to check out your tool or whatever, you want to make that process as simple as possible. And I do think forms are everything in lead gen, and people get them so wrong. And if I could do anything, it would be simplifying the process. And even if that lead comes through and it's not instantly qualified, it needs a bit of warming up, just having a really good like email nurture campaign in the back that can actually work that is fine. Like, I'm not saying that something's going to be ready for the sales team to jump in, but yeah, I would say a lot of the time it would be that, or I would say changing campaigns in a panicked way without strategy. But that's a big conversation. But I definitely see that happen quite a lot as well, particularly as we know, like, we're heading towards Christmas, and if you are in a lead gen service-based business, you're probably trying to make a last-ditch attempt to get some revenue through the door before the end of the year. But if things have been working, then a lot of the time, whatever results you're getting now is probably from 12, 18 months worth of work behind the scenes. It's not really going to necessarily be that drastically different if we turn everything on its head 3 weeks before Christmas. So I do think that a lot of the time I see some successful campaigns that would continue to be successful if they were left to do their own thing.
Yeah, no, I
But
agree. And I'm gonna unpack the form thing for a moment,
yeah,
because
do it, do it.
that's something that winds me up as well, because I'm a big believer that not always, but most of the time, shorter the better. Get the
Hmm.
basics, get the fundamental information, let the sales team or the nurturing sequence do the work after. Don't be
Yeah.
lazy. But SaaS, we don't work that much in SaaS, but I use a lot of SaaS.
Hmm.
I've noticed that just to get a demo, like they want to know my cat's name, when my
Yeah,
dog was
yeah.
born. What's
Hmm.
your what's your biggest silver bullet for forms?
Um, I guess I actually know quite a lot about this because we've gone through the process recently of looking for a social media tool internally as a business. And I think going through the process as a customer has been really interesting to me. So trying to sign up for stuff. And I guess the main issues that we see with forms as a potential customer, as I saw, was they want as much information as they want because they want to be able to pre-qualify you before a call. Um, but the issues therefore lie is a lot of the bias that comes with the pre-qualification process. So, as an example, I was looking at a tool that was going to be majority funded by a client. It was something that the client had asked us to look for. So we'd said, yes, we can do it, but it's going to be quite pricey per year. They wanted it for social listening. We were fine to take that. Um, I could tell from the process that they had looked at my company that I'd signed up with and made a decision based on company house information that we couldn't afford the tool. So I got a response back that basically pretty much said, this is going to be too expensive. And just to let you know, our prices start at this. We understand as a small business, and it was really shocking that there was sort of like this bias about what had happened. And I do think that's what happens a lot with forms. So by trying to ask for all this information, it's then so a sales team, like you say, don't necessarily have to do tons of work to pre-qualify because it's already been pre-qualified. Um, but yeah, I think from my perspective, keeping forms as short as possible and understanding that the next process is what determines whether a lead is good or not. Um, example, Exhibit a lot of people will sign up to demos and stuff with a non-work email.
Yeah.
Doesn't It doesn't mean they're not qualified as a lead. I see that all the time as well. So yeah, I think from my perspective, I guess forms being simple enough that you can contact them, but information like country, you would know from a country code of a number. So
Yes.
reducing down the need for some of the fields is a sure way that you can get more success over complicating a form and not watching the data like mapping. How frustrated are people getting before they're even
Mm,
thinking, you know
mm.
what? okay, actually I've filled in 3 fields and then I've realised that there's another page of 6 more, now I'm done. And I think people don't necessarily look too much into that.
Yeah, it's a big conversion killer. Um,
Huge.
and actually,
Yeah.
form UX is something that I find really interesting because sometimes there is a need for a form to be slightly more extensive, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Staging the form, visually showing how far you are through it, all that good stuff that
Yeah.
I could bore everyone to tears with. But yeah, it's super interesting, and that firmly goes into Room
Yeah.
301. But look, really appreciate your time. Thank you. I know for anyone that doesn't know, she jumped on very short notice, probably 24 hours today, and saved me. So very, very grateful. Where can everybody find out more about you and your agency?
Yeah, so if you want to look at the agency, it's victoriousdigital.co.uk, or we're on LinkedIn, and I'm also on LinkedIn. I post a lot about business and personal stuff, but also a lot about social media, in particular B2B social media. So yeah, follow me on there.
Excellent. Well, look, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you again soon.